Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and there are warnings from the government across the board that we are facing a looming crisis as transformer crisis looms as Trump's trade wars cripple global supply chains. Now, it's not just that, my friends. This is a multi-layered issue that goes back to the positions and the agendas of the World Economic Forum, my friends. Texas AI centers guzzle 463 million gallons. Now residents are asked to cut back on showers. This is an overall anti-human agenda where they are laughing at you. They are mocking you, my friends. They're basically saying, hey, you don't need water. Why do humans need water? The AI needs water, as they really push for AI to take over as Amazon acquires B, the AI wearable that hears everything you say. But a lot of the things that are helping to aid this crisis is, the massive weather disasters we see across the board. We see the state of emergency recently in New York. We see this near world record setting earthquake and tsunami, which is triggering volcanoes from Russia through Alaska and onward. This is something that ends with us eating basically fake salmon, eating ration food, and of course the agenda, which is pushing these stable coins, these CBDCs with these KYC regulations. We need to go into this and more today, my friends. But before we do, I urge you to check those links below and get prepared today so you don't have to worry about the overall results of this crisis. I urge people to check out heavensharvest.com for long-term storable foods that are non-GMO. There's organic kits, heirloom seeds, water filtration and storage, and books on how to get started. There's freeze-dried food as well. Use code WAM, W-A-M, and you will get 5% off as well as free shipping on your order. I highly recommend people get on this today. Not wait until it's too late, because this is all about getting prepared so you aren't dependent on ration foods that who knows what's going to be in that later on down the road, which could hit at any time in the face of a crisis. I also urge people to check out whambeef.com for 10 plus year shelf life freeze dried steak, 12 servings per bag. There's freeze dried chicken and ground beef as well. Use code WAMBEEF, WAMBEEF, all one word, and you will get 20% off on your order. We have many options linked in the description of this video that I urge people to go and check out today. That's whambeef.com, heavensharvest.com. Make sure to hit that like button and share on social media and subscribe if you have not yet already. Now, let's get into this. So, something I've been warning about for a long time is this push for these CBDCs, which is obviously something that we're witnessing occur across the board simultaneously with the digital IDs and the AI, which we're also seeing across the board, and the overall control of humanity. But first, you need the right crisis. Now, we are witnessing the destruction of the supply chain. We're witnessing 73-year lows in cattle head, which 73 years ago, 1952, there was less than a billion people on Earth, according to records. Anyway, so we have to see this as this as 8 times, I should say, worse than what we saw 73 years ago. That is a major crisis. That is a shortage that's going to lead to not just the inflation we're already seeing, but heightened prices based on scarcity, as well as the fact that, when they are running low on things, which I believe is totally manufactured, they can come in and say, hey, we're here to help, but you have to be rationed. You must have your quantities cut down, what you are able to have as far as supply goes. You can't stock up. You can't be prepared. You have to be even more dependent on the system that you are already unfortunately dependent on, with grocery stores and bank accounts, with digital currencies. This is a major step in the direction of the World Economic Forum's agenda. And that's why I find it so important to talk about. We get the lowest viewership across the board on videos on this subject, but I find it incredibly important. That's why I continue to talk about it, and I care not if other people want to sit on their hands. I want to encourage people out there to not sit on their hands, and hopefully people listen to me. But transformer crisis looms as Trump's trade war cripples global supply chains. Transformer shortage crisis. The U.S. faces a 3 to 5 year wait for transformers versus weeks in 2020. That's weeks in 2020. And there was a huge problem with the outdated grid at that time, which is purposely outdated so they can come in, swoop in with a new updated system of control that they will claim is a solution. That's what this is all about. Pull out the rug, give you the solution that they just happen to already build, which includes you having less control over your own independence in your life. It says this is stalling AI and industrial projects due to Trump's tariffs on India, 60% global supply, and China, 20%. Now, this is a perfect excuse, a perfect pretext for them to come into with the system and say, oh, well, we need this AI system, which is extremely dangerous, in my opinion, to swoop in and fix all these problems that we've created ourselves. So we need this new system, this new grid project, and we need rations. They will say anyway. Grid instability threat. Domestic production meets only 20% of demand, delaying Trump's $1 trillion AI data center plan until 2028, risking blackouts and infrastructure collapse. Now, that's another thing which I find interesting because, we have this Sam Altman project, which got $500 billion through Stargate, which has on the second day of Trump's administration, which has already flopped. But he's moving into something else even more dangerous going forward, in my opinion, as he pitches World ID to bankers as AI threatens traditional banking system, they say. This is the direction that they're heading in, and Trump is putting insane amount of money into this. Of course, he put a massive amount of money into AI through not just these initiatives with Sam Altman, Larry Ellison, the SoftBank CEO, BlackRock, etc., and the takeover of the supply chain, which again is a very important thing to understand because this is a move to use BlackRock not to just take over housing, but the supply chain as well. What we've seen recently in Panama, where they went up after China, which is funny because China is one of the main countries BlackRock invests in, but also with Trump's move into the Middle East and the shaking of hands with the Saudi crown prince and the head of Qatar, and of course Jelani in Syria, the proxy president there that Israel put in. And this move to create an AI military governance system worldwide and AI employment to replace employment at your local stores and restaurants, etc., which Elon Musk is a big part of as well. He says that most jobs will be replaced by AI. He's one of the main people developing it. He says he'll destroy the world, but again, he's one of the main people developing it while pretending to be pro-human. And also saying, but don't worry, you'll have UBI, Universal Basic Income, which is a main tenet of the World Economic Forum's agenda. This is what I mean. The left and the right will both usher in the exact same system, just in different ways. And it's so important that we understand the dangers of this going forward. But I want to continue on the subject of the grid and supply chain, because this is a big one. This is going to have a huge echoing effects for years to come. Trade war paradox, tariffs on transformer materials, example, copper and aluminum, and imported factory components hinder reshoring efforts, crippling domestic manufacturing before it starts. Resource conflicts, AI data centers consume billions of gallons of water and require massive grid expansions, risking household rationing and outpacing U.S. power capacity, 1/3 of China's output. Desperate solutions needed. Cold fusion or SMRs may help, but deployment is too slow. China could lead AI by 2028 while the U.S. battles shortages and policy failures. Now, this is something that we shouldn't even be pushing like, hey, well, China's going to lead in AI. We need to compete. Well, first one to the top wins, right? Well, both ways, we still end up with AI governance replacing humanity. And this is coming as we see hurricanes, wildfires, and surging demand burdening aging transformers, but new ones are unavailable. So this is the overall approach here, I believe, and I've been talking about this for a long time, to shut down the power supply and force people into a digital ID system. And people will say, well, they need the internet, they need the power supply for all those things. Yes, they need that, but first they have to destroy the old system to have an excuse to bring in the new system, because people won't accept the new system if they just lay it out like that. They need a crisis, the right crisis, as they say. It's order out of chaos, and it's problem, reaction, solution, repeat, the Hegelian dialectic. That's how they always do these things, my friends. So yes, they need the internet to have the Internet of Things. They need the grid for this grid control, but they need the old one to suffer consequences first in order for them to come in with a new system of controlled digital ID based grids and food systems. Economic Times says Texas AI centers guzzle 463 million gallons. Now residents are asked to cut back on showers. They hate you. They are laughing at you. They're mocking you. They say humans don't deserve showers, but we need everything to go into AI governance. I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. And these AI data centers are replacing people's jobs and replacing our ability to be independent. Tyranny comes under the guise of convenience, my friends. We must understand that. This is happening as New York has issued another state of emergency for the second time this summer. A state of emergency has been issued for New York City after storms caused major flash flooding. Flash flooding across New York City has resulted in drivers stranded on several major expressways. And there are many new videos coming out of these cars stuck on roads throughout around Queens, etc. Again, I believe that there's something very nefarious about this and these earthquakes and these fires and these floods, what we saw in Texas, all concentrated over one area. Russia's Kloichevskoy volcano erupts after a massive 8.8 earthquake triggers Pacific-wide tsunami warnings. This is another example of what we're seeing across the board is, these earthquakes. We did a video on it recently. I had like 2 hours of sleep when I did the video, so I apologize if it wasn't the greatest breakdown ever. But we've also done videos like the one called the Global Disaster Agenda recently, which goes into this stuff as well. And I urge people to check it out and take it seriously, because this is part of the agenda to get us onto this digital system as they go after the food supply in a huge way. Of course, we've reported for years on the agenda by, for example, the Netherlands, where they wanted to get rid of 50% of farms in the second top agricultural exporter country in the world. They're trying the same thing in Belgium. They're trying the same thing in Ireland and the UK. They're trying the same thing throughout different European countries and Canada as well. And they've brought in insane policies in the United States, which are only worsened by the recent approach of taking farmers from farms and sending them back to Mexico. Now, look, I'm not a big fan. I don't support mass migration, but I do say that there is, if they're going to go after people, maybe it's the people that are raping and murdering people and not specifically the people that are doing all the jobs that no one else is seemingly signing up to do on farms across the United States, where they are not hurting anybody and they are producing the food that comes onto your table and at a lower price, because the less scarcity, the more food there is, the less chance of you paying a large dollar at the store. And we are seeing prices go up across the board. So that's adding to the issue here, plus the bird flu thing, plus all these other things that they're trying to utilize in order to damage the food supply. And I find it incredibly dangerous going forward if we do not acknowledge these truths, and they are truths, that we are seeing a collapse of the food supply, and it's by design. And it's a big part of the World Economic Forum's agenda to force you into the carbon credit or social credit system, which the United States signed on to with the United Nations Pact for the Future, which, again, 193 countries signed on to in general, overall, which forces people to accept rules that involve shutting down your bank account if you disagree with the government or the narrative, and being forced into food rations and social credit. So that's already on the books. Children's Health Defense reports FDA rubber stamps fake salmon with no independent testing, no public review. And I urge people to check out my video recently, which I can't even mention if I post this on YouTube. I can't say the name of it, but my most recent video that isn't on YouTube, it has a blue-ish thumbnail. And to go and look at that, because it goes into all the other ways that they're making us sick. But this is another example. This is happening at the same time as medical researchers are saying tick-borne meat allergies should be allowed to spread because eating meat is morally impermissible. This is a part of that agenda too. They want us on rations and fake salmon. FDA rubber stamps fake salmon with no independent testing, no public review. And it's filled with chemicals because, of course, it's manufactured with countless chemicals. And, of course, there's no third-party testing, animal trials, or public review required on this. And people aren't forced to tell people if they are eating this or not. So this is what I see as a future of the ration system as they go after meat, as they go after farms, as they go after even just fruits and vegetables and what they're putting, spraying over top of them. And then simultaneously, they have these weather disasters. Simultaneously, they have this grid failure. Simultaneously, they have these things like a United Nations Pact for the Future to force us into rations. Simultaneously, Sam Altman pitches World ID to bankers as AI threatens traditional identity systems. Simultaneously, as I reported weeks ago, our video called Exposed Global CBDC Rollout is here, where we go into how almost nearly every country is pushing CBDCs and digital IDs in different ways, and how that affects you. This is not a coincidence. This is not a coincidence that they're pushing this to the max right now. And meanwhile, the censorship, the real censorship we will see at the end of the day is going to be the censorship of free thought, free will, independence, individualism, the basis of humanity and freedom as it stands. Modernity writes, government censorship of the internet is worse than ever in the UK. They're shutting down websites across the board. They're banning things like BitChute, which you could follow and subscribe to us on. You could use a VPN. It's not that difficult. But they have shut down BitChute in the UK. And of course, because they refuse to censor people. And that is getting big. But people say, well, the US is not going to be that bad, even though they'll totally, ignore the fact that we have people that have legal visas in the US that are getting deported for criticizing Israel, and they're calling it hate speech, and they're finding ways to actually arrest people for criticizing Israel. But again, we will just pretend that it's a free speech nation because Trump is in charge, and Trump is the guy who is super pro free speech. Yeah, well, when it benefits him. This Hollywood-backed bill would give government power to block websites. A court order to protect creativity could quietly become the internet's kill switch. There are many rules coming in the United States to restrict free speech. And this also includes the digital, the real ID, the digital ID, and of course the internet ID request, which is again, this is part of cracking down on pornography, which look, I think pornography is a horrible thing, and I actually think it's destroying young men, and I actually think that obviously children shouldn't be seeing anything of the sort. However, the way they're doing this is like a Trojan horse. They are saying you need identification to access these websites. They have basically blocked it in the UK, and after they've already demoralized society, by the way, and now you need this ID to access it. So KYC, know your customer, basically you'll be surveilled. They'll be able to watch everything that you see. And therefore, it's not just that, that's a Trojan horse to bring in IDs across the board, so that the only way you can access the internet is through your giving up your identity, giving up your privacy. So this is a big open door to technocracy, and of course, eventually that social credit system, which will record what you say, what you do, and who you talk to. I find this incredibly dangerous, despite it coming under the guise of something that seems reasonable. Hey, we shouldn't have kids looking at this stuff. Well, maybe we should have better parents out there that better restrict access to certain things like disgusting websites, when kids are staring at smartphones and tablets at the age of 3. That is a big problem, and we need to, because that's part of the desensitization and brainwashing of the public from childhood. Anyway, this combines with the issue of Amazon acquiring Bee, the AI wearable that hears everything you say, which happens at the same time as RFK Jr. says all Americans in 4 years he dreams will have a wearable device that will tell you exactly what their medical situation is at all times. So that's a biometric system. And with the immigration issue, that's also a biometric system that they're pushing forward. Meanwhile, Germany begins hate speech raids on its own civilians, as Scholz says today, by the way. This is ridiculous. That Germany has free speech. We have freedom of speech in Europe, he says. Everyone can say what he wants, even if he is a billionaire. We do not accept what we do not accept is if this is supporting extreme right positions. Like, what does that even mean? So we have, this rating of citizens at their door for things they've said on Facebook. So we're seeing all this kind of come together. The year of disaster has resulted in record high losses for global insurance companies. We are seeing record high losses, as we talked about in our previous video on the tsunamis. And of course, what we've recently reported on with, of course, our video on the global disaster agenda. And that all correlates with the destruction of the food supply at the same time as we see the introduction of all these digital IDs, the introduction of the CBDC, which again, with the Genius Act and the Stable Act in the United States, enforces this. Because yes, cryptocurrency is supposed to be decentralized, so the whole idea is to be outside of the banks. But with this, the stablecoin initiative by these central banks and the government, you have a centralized cryptocurrency that you need KYC for, so it's tracked and traced everywhere. Bank of America, Citigroup, Morgan Stanley, and JP Morgan Chase are exploring stablecoin launches amid regulatory changes. This is the introduction. They will say we don't have a central bank digital currency, and then of course they don't have enough votes against it in the Senate to push back against it. The Congress said that we won't be doing a CBDC, but Senate will push back on that initiative and say, hey, we need a CBDC. That's what they're going to do. And I believe that it's likely that it'll go through the Treasury more so than the Federal Reserve, as a way for them to say that, oh, private companies aren't doing this, but they're going to have puppet private companies, X money, things like that from Elon Musk or Visa, or MasterCard that are going to be enforcing these things. And these things are going to be attached to what you can or cannot purchase at a store. There's already a lot of stores that don't accept cash. And if you have any issue with your bank, then you can't get groceries. Now, next is that you have a bad score for something you've said online, and then you cannot get groceries. And then eventually, when you can get groceries, you're going to have to ration it because you can't have a bunch of groceries. So you're going to have to, it's going to be shrunken down to only a small amount of purchases. And then the prices are going to be extremely high, and there's going to be more shortages. And across the board, they will say, hey, if you don't have this digital ID and your credit isn't in good standing, you can't have anything, but you can have some of this Soylent Green slop. This is the slippery slope that I 100% believe is exactly what we're seeing happen right now. And to me, there's no doubt in my mind that this is the case. And that's why on earth, unless you're the stupidest people in the world, why on earth would you destroy all these farms? Why on earth would you purposely poison the food? Why on earth would you shut down the grid to the point that it has been shut down while just having to build a whole new system of control for emergency purposes, they say? Why on earth would you be like, you have the government telling people to stock up now or before it's too late? I've been saying that for years. Obviously, it's important to stock up, get 25-year shelf life food. I mean, it's crazy not to at this point. But again, why on earth are they doing all these things simultaneously unless there is an agenda? There's no way that this is just happenstance. There's no way that this is a coincidence. And of course, walking into war, anything to bring in emergency orders is, something we should be concerned about. They have the rules in place now through the United Nations, etc., to be able to force this kind of stuff on people. And with the recent shutdown of Starlink, and like there was an outage across the world, what they are going to be doing, I believe, is there's going to be severing of underwater internet cables in war, and then you'll be forced to use Starlink, and then you'll need a sign-in and digital ID to access it, and it'll be completely surveilling everything you do, and that'll be attached to what you're allowed to eat, what electricity you're allowed to use. This is why it's so incredibly important to withdraw from the system. Palantir CEO Alex Karp lives off the grid while enforcing all this stuff on people and bringing in these databases. What does he know? He's off the grid. He doesn't have social media. He doesn't have smartphones. He lives off the grid. That's CEO Alex Karp of Palantir. What does he know that other people don't when he's developing the very digital system he is personally trying to escape? Why are billionaires building bunkers as a place to get away from artificial intelligence? Their own words. AI safe bunkers packed with foods. Why are they doing this unless there is a crisis that is being manufactured to come? And that's why it's so important that I tell you guys about this, because like I said before, our least viewed videos are videos on this subject, but I find it so incredibly important to talk about, because even if I lose viewership, I lose subscribers, I don't make any money these days, I'm totally broke, but even if I do all those things, I still hope that there's someone out there that will see this and go, you know, and I hope it saves their life going forward. Maybe I should get prepared, they'll say, in the face of the Great Reset. In the face of the Great Reset, it's so important that we, in the aftermath, because it will fall eventually, the Tower of Babel will fall, we can fight side by side alongside each other to create a bright, beautiful new future based in voluntarism, independence, freedom, self-sustainability, humanity. The basis of humanity is all those things. They're all synonymous. So as I close this off, we have to understand what's happening here. This is manufactured, in my opinion. So go and get prepared. So I urge people to go and check out those links in the description. Again, heavensharvest.com for long-term storable food that's non-GMO. There's organic kits, heirloom seeds, water filtration and storage, books on how to get started. Use code WAM, W-A-M, and you will get 5% off as well as free shipping in the United States. I wish I could ship this out to the UK and other places, but I can't because of laws in those countries. There's nothing I could do about it. I've been working for years to try and fix that. I wish I could help you guys better with that. But anyway, heavensharvest.com. That's code WAM, W-A-M. And of course, you can also find whambeef.com in the description of the video for 10 plus year shelf life, freeze-dried food, 12 servings per bag. Again, there's freeze-dried chicken and ground beef there as well. You can use code WAMBEEF, W-A-M-B-E-E-F, all one word, and you will get 20% off on your order. So I highly recommend people go and check that out today. Very important going forward. Guaranteed no mRNA, no lab-grown meat, all American beef that's 100% natural. Whambeef.com, code WAMBEEF, all one word. And of course, we have Wild Pastures link below for 20% off your life plus $15 off your first box when you use that link. And you save local farmers while helping yourself for 100% grass-fed and finished beef, pasture-raised pork, pasture-raised chicken, and wild-caught seafood. No mRNA, no GMOs, hormones, antibiotics, steroids, feedlots, pesticides, or chemicals of any kind, all raised on regenerative family farms in 48 U.S. states, delivered to your door, temperature controlled and customizable as you see fit. Again, use that link. You save your local farmers, you save yourself money, and you save yourself as far as health goes with what is on the local grocery store shelves. Rather than that, you have this stuff brought to your door from the great farmers near you. So go and check out our link for Wild Pastures in the description. I highly recommend it. Of course, we have a bunch of health-related links. I'm going to mention one, but the others I can't mention unless you go to our links on Rumble and BitChute. VNI.life/WAM, W-A-M. This is really cool stuff, my friends. So I'm really interested in this Protovite. You could use code WAM15, W-A-M-15, and save 15%. It's 100 plus vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients, helps cellular health. Check this out. So the before and after on this is incredible. So this is before taking Protovite liquid. It's doing the job that most things it takes a month to do. And look at the toxins. Look at the flow of the cells here, affecting circulation and more. Now, look, 5 minutes after taking it, look at this. This is lab tested, my friends. Really amazing stuff. I urge people to check this out. White blood cells 4 times bigger. I mean, this is incredible. So great for immune system, immune function. Check it out. We have VNI.life/WAM, W-A-M. And of course, you could use code WAM15 for 15% off. Really cool stuff in the description. Finally, we have firstnationalbullion.com/schedule-consult/ has to be that exact link. It's in the description for you to avoid the CBDC system. You can buy physical gold, silver, platinum, or palladium, hold it in your hands, put it in a vault, or put it in an IRA outside of the traditional IRA system. Schedule an appointment for a free consultation with Mark Gonzalez and a complimentary investors package there. Again, let him know in the comments that he found him at World Alternative Media or WAM, W-A-M. You won't regret it. I urge people to check that out. And as we close this off, any help is very much appreciated. We have gogetfunding.com, Patreon, Subscribestar. We cannot survive without you, my friends. We've lost 90% of our money since January, where we were already bankrupt. I've turned down $1 million contract for networks and network gigs, and because I don't want to say what they tell me to say. I will always tell the truth, and even if it includes us sleeping on park benches. But check it out. If you pledge $4.99 a month or more on Patreon, Subscribestar, or exit at World Alt Media, you will get You will get exclusive content, including early access to videos. And of course, if you want a PayPal, we have ancientwonderstelevision@gmail.com over on PayPal. We have a Bitcoin address that you could scan on the screen here or donate to in the description of this video in text form. We also have a Cointree link with a bunch of different cryptocurrencies that you could donate in if you please, including privacy coins. So I urge you to check that out. As always, my friends, we have our Teespring store with merchandise, and you can find us on Telegram, Band.video, BitChute, Odyssey, Rumble, and Brighteon at World Alternative Media. We're on Hive, Steemit, and Vigilante.tv. And at Josh Sigurdson, we're on the Bad Guys TikTok and Instagram, World Alternative Media, Twitter and Getter at World Alt Media, and all the major podcast platforms except for Spotify, where we were banned. Though I think I just got banned on another one. I'm not sure. I saw a sudden dip overnight, a 90% dip in viewership on podcast platforms. So I'm not sure what happened there. We'll figure it out. But of course, hit that like button, share on social media, hit the notification bell, and hit subscribe if you have not yet already. And as always, my friends, live freely, live by example. This is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.